Charlene, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so well, my name is Sharleen, but I go by Char. It's funny when I was working my corporate job, I'd always go by Charlene.
Mhm.
But since I've ventured out into entrepreneurship, I prefer Char. And so I am a macro nutrition coach. I actually wear multiple hats. I help women primarily improve their relationship with food and the yo-yo dieting cycle. It's kind of evolved over the last couple of years. I've only been in this profession for about 3 years. I was a IT project management consultant prior to this. Um, and I hit burnout in the corporate world. And, a lot of my teams are based in India. So I'm in Canada. So I was working Canadian hours plus Indian hours. And it was a lot. And I hit burnout and it kind of almost forced me into this profession as a certified macronutrition coach. And so I love helping women just live a healthier lifestyle. Really, I know the majority of women come to me because they want to lose weight, but I always say to them, don't make your journey about the weight loss, make it more about the habits and the standards. And so I've expanded my team to also include functional practitioners because what I found is that um, the women could be doing everything right and maybe they're still seeing some dysfunction in their bodies. So having answers, we do some testing just to give them further answers to be able to help them in their healing journeys. So it's been such a beautiful transition from corporate to this entrepreneurship. Recently, my husband and I are also getting into the short-term rental market. So we just put our rental onto the market just like 2 days ago, and we're already getting. I haven't even announced it really. This is kind of me first announcing it.
Uh-huh.
It hit the market, and we're already getting bookings. So that's been really, really exciting. So I call it. I'm based in Edmonton, Alberta, and I call it Edmonton's most unique Airbnb stay because we put up a geodome. So it's really unique. Almost not one of its kind. There's a few in the area. It's more like a glamping experience.
Mhm.
We live on an acreage just outside of Edmonton, and we have the most beautiful property. We're back onto a ravine, and I've had this vision of like sharing this space with others because I feel this space is so magical. We have trails out through the ravine out to the river, and so I pitched it to my husband. I'm like, how about we do this geodome? He's like, okay. So I think for me, I'm more of the entrepreneurial spirit in the relationship, and he
Mhm.
goes along with the ride. So it's been fun.
So it's a geodome where it's basically like a big dome, but it's all see-through. You can see through it, like, is that right?
Yeah, so you can see through probably maybe half of it, and then the other part is just a white. It looks like a big igloo. So I know a lot of people think, I live in Canada, we live in igloos. That's not true. We don't live in igloos, but I do kind of have a big erected igloo on my acreage property. So yeah.
That's so cool. So then,
Yeah.
like during I guess the winter months, you get to see the Northern Lights and everything too, and then the people stay there, you get to see it as well.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're far enough outside. Like we're close to the city, but yet far enough that we can experience the Northern Lights. And yeah, it's incredible out here. I'm so excited about this opportunity with the short-term rental. So yeah,
I
that's
mean, it
fun.
sounds like a cool opportunity because if you're so far outside the city, then you get to see the Milky Way and everything too, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the nights out here, the stars are just amazing. It's just, yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I wish I could just see from my backyard as well. Because you go outside, you see some stars, but then I want to be able to see the whole, like the dust and everything too. I've just been in this space since I was a kid, so um,
Right.
at some point it would be nice to have something like what you have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it took us a little bit longer than we had planned to get it all up and ready. Just because there was, when we're thinking about expansion or if this goes well, what's kind of next. So
Mhm.
it's thinking not just short term, but longer term and how would we be able to scale this, right? So we already
Mhm.
kind of have a phase two kind of mapped out in our head, but let's just start with phase one, get some
Yeah.
equity built up, and then start on kind of phase two. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, very cool. And I completely understand that when you have an idea and you get to watch it, like start implementing it, then your brain starts thinking, oh, let's do 5, 10, like 100, right? And it
Yes.
just nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Um,
in fact, there's this land for sale just not too far from me that I've been like thinking, I'm like, oh, this would be great for like to put multiple of these geodomes or tiny homes and just
mm,
almost like a, not necessarily an RV park, but like a glamping experience for those that, want to experience camping, but a little
mm.
bit more of the luxurious kind of camping style. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you have primitive camping where you're close to where you live?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There is
Have you
quite
ever
a
done
few.
that?
Yeah. I have not. No, I will say like I've camped a lot, but I still want to have a washroom. Like I still want to be able to use the facilities. Like I'm not by all means high maintenance, but I still
Mm.
want to be able to at least like I'm okay with outhouses, but just like off the grid kind of no, no. There's a lot
Yeah,
of people that
I didn't know primitive camping existed until I moved down to Florida. I was like, that's not something that I'd ever do.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So getting back to your change in career, so you went from IT project management consulting to nutrition. Like, how did you make that transition?
It's a complete different road. So I was an IT project manager consultant for 25 plus years. I grew into that. Like I started working directly for companies as a tester. Like I would test systems, user acceptance testing, and then that grew into a business analyst. So I would companies would hire me to streamline their processes. So I do a lot of business process mapping, system mapping, and then that grew into like project management. So I kind of went the ladder from, UAT tester to business analyst and then project management. At that point, I was still working like companies, not as an independent consultant. When I decided to get married or with my husband, it gave me the flexibility to then go as an independent consultant because I was almost scared to make that jump as a single income in case I don't get a contract, right? So when we got married, or right before we got married, I decided to go independent consultant. And I did that for 25 plus years. In 2020, I found I was at my highest weight. And I woke up one morning and I had just finished this huge project. And I woke up reading like all these accolades from like the executives saying, like, great, this is amazing. It was well done. But deep down inside, I was like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm at my highest weight. Like, what am I not doing right? Because I thought I was doing everything right. I was going to the gym. I thought I was eating properly, but the weight just kept going on and on and on. And I was like, I need to do something. And I was so tired of trying to figure it out on my own. So I hired a coach. She was a macro coach. And it opened my eyes to like, wow, I felt so duped by the diet industry. Like I felt like I had to severely restrict my calories and work out a shit ton to get
Mhm,
results. And that wasn't it. I was so undernourished. I didn't even realize it. Like I was eating
mhm,
probably 1,200, 1,500 calories a day, which is not enough for me to be like, I'm an active person, right? I need
mhm.
to be eating a lot more. So
Yeah.
it was through that journey with my coach, I lost 25 pounds. I've put on a lot of muscle mass, something that I have been chasing for like years to get a toned look in my body, but I was doing it all the wrong way. And
Mhm,
so through that experience, my friends were starting to ask me, hey, like, what's your secret? What's your secret? So I started telling them about, macronutrition and micronutrition. It's a combination of all those and progressive overload when you're at the gym. Like the way I used to train has completely changed. I went from group HIIT classes to like intentional strength training. And I started just helping friends on the side and they were getting results. And then one of my friends said, you're so passionate about this. Why don't you do this as a job? I'm like, I don't think I could do this as a job. Like, I don't think I could ever do this, even though I loved doing it.
mhm,
And then it was in December of 2001, I was called into a meeting and I had heard right prior to the meeting that they were going to extend my contract. So it was a multi-year extension on my contract and multi-six-figure contract for me, which was amazing. But I text my husband right up before that meeting and I said, "Are you okay if I quit?" Leading up to this, he had been encouraging me to quit for about 2 to 3 months. He could just see the stress levels. Like I was losing hair. I was barely sleeping. I was getting lumps in my armpits. Like just, it was not a good thing. And so he says, yeah, quit. And so I went into that meeting. I didn't wake up that morning thinking I was going to leave and give my notice, but I went into
Mm.
that meeting and they offered me the extension. And I said, you know what? I can't do it. I said, I'll stay here to finish my project because I was managing RPA, which is robotics process automation, their
Mm.
first kind of AI into their company. And so it was a big project. So I stayed on to finish that implementation. And then in February of 2022 is when I left. So it's coming up 3 years here that I left corporate and full-time into coaching, and I haven't looked back. I love it. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the
Very
long
cool.
story, but yeah, that's how I went through corporate to where I am now. Yeah, just based on my own journey and then helping others.
So I'm kind of curious because I've always, you know, there's a point in time where I want to put on a lot of muscle, but I've never been able to do it. Not that I've ever been like big. I've never gotten fat either.
Yeah.
I went through this one challenge where there was no one else I was challenging. I was just challenging myself. Can I eat a double quarter pounder meal every single day for a month? And I did it. Can I eat 2 burritos from Chipotle a day for a month? And I did it, but I never put on any weight. And so I just always assumed that I can never gain weight. But if I were to change, I don't even know what is macro
Yeah.
what is
So
mac
macros,
Mhm.
so macronutrition, so macros make up the calories in your food. So if you've ever calorie counted, so your example,
Mhm.
what were the double
The
uh
double quarter pounders. So I know in Canada you have the double, you have the four patty Big Macs.
Big
Um
Mac, yeah. We
but
do have
we
the double quarter pounders too, though.
okay, yeah, I was
Are
crushing
you
those.
serious? That you would only eat two of those a day? That's it?
No, I would that would be my lunch or for my meal for when I was working, but I'd eat other stuff too.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm like, if you're only eating those, then maybe that's why you're not putting on the weight because there wouldn't be enough calories in two
Yeah.
of those like people think there would be.
Yeah.
So macronutrition is really macros make up the calories in your food. So it's
Mm.
broken into protein, carbs, and fats. So
Okay.
when you put a focus on your protein, carbs, and fats, you ensure that you're getting the right amount for your body and your exercise. So carbs always get a bad rap. They're like, oh, carbs make me fat. But no, your carbs are your body's main source of energy. So you still need carbs. You know, when you
Mhm.
eat in excess of carbs, all it does is it stores water in your muscles. So it converts it into glycogen. So a lot of people say, oh, I feel puffy or I've gained weight. It's just water weight. A lot of 95% of the scale fluctuations that you see is
Mhm.
water weight, right?
Mhm.
Unless you're continually eating in an excess. So when you focus on macros, macros will make you look good, right? It'll
Mhm.
give you that body composition because if you're really wanting to build your muscle, you need to have the right proportions of protein, carbs, and fats for your body.
Mhm.
And then micronutrients, because a lot of people will just focus solely on macros and they won't really necessarily think of the micronutrients. That's where you get all your vitamins and minerals, right? So
Mhm.
it's really
Okay.
important you kind of look at both of them. So macros make you look good, micros make you feel good. And then if you want to build muscle, it's really about focusing on progressive overload at the gym, which I didn't even know about. So progressive overload is where you're continually challenge yourself week after week with either increasing your reps or your weights. So I, in my
Mhm.
program, even though I'm not a certified personal trainer, everyone has asked me for my strength training program. I'm self-taught. I've created my own. So I have like up to different phases, like up to phase 10. Each phase is like 4 week block. So you do those same exercises for 4 weeks and then you switch it up.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because your body after 4 weeks will kind of get used to those movements. You want to continually challenge it. But during those first 4 weeks, so say a week one, you're doing a bicep curl and you're only doing like 10 pounds and 10 reps. Then the
Mhm.
following week, you should try and get up to 12 reps. But if you're doing like 12 reps really easy, not making what I say like the faces,
Mhm.
that's kind of a sign you need to up your weight. A lot of us are really, really scared to lift heavy because we're
Yeah.
scared that we're going to get bulky, but
Mhm.
you need to be eating a lot more food and lifting really, really heavy at the gym to get that bulk. So
Okay.
yeah.
Um, One of the things that I've heard, I think Muhammad Ali said that he doesn't start counting reps until it starts to hurt. and that's when it really counts. Is that true?
100%. Yeah. So those last two reps without sacrificing your form should be where
Mhm.
I always say make the poop faces, but you really, if you're straining to make a that's another issue. But like we don't if you're, just make those straining faces. So without sacrificing your form. So those last 2 to 3 reps
Yeah.
really, really that's where the kind of magic happens. So I always say like
Mm.
really get those reps in, like those last 2 to 3. Yeah, without
Are
sacrificing.
partial reps beneficial at all? Like if you can't
Partial
pull the
reps,
like if you can't get the weight all the way up, right? But you still keep trying.
you would try. Yeah, you would try. Yeah. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Um, cool. So then you said that you're not a certified personal trainer. Does that affect you negatively when you are, you know, I guess selling your strength training program?
Not at all, because I have a lot of macro coaches in my own community that I know of that offer
Mm,
that are also a certified personal trainer. So if my clients don't want to do my strength training program,
mm,
I have a list of like, hey, this person has a great program, this one, this one, this one. Because when you work with me, I'm old school.
mm.
So I'm 47. And so I like pen and paper. So this is kind of what my workouts look like because I like to write them down. Some
Mm.
some people like it on an app. I just like to bring this
Yeah.
and it. I like to make notes and I keep these all year to see like okay how consistent was I so it's really good. So if people don't like this form like print it out and bring it to the gym. I
Mhm.
have like loads of people that I partner with to recommend strength training programs, but I haven't felt that it's negatively impacted me at all. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the reason why I ask is because my wife has been on a very similar journey, more on the micro side than macro. Because we moved to Florida specifically because our youngest has eczema. And so every time we left the area, it got better. And we did not want to put steroids on her. We wanted to fix, the internals, whatever was happening, whatever she was lacking. And so because of that, my wife went into this rabbit hole. And when she talks to other people, she knows as much, if not more, than a lot of the doctors, the functional health and holistic doctors, but she doesn't have the credentials. And so I kept telling her that she should go out and try to help other people, but she just keeps saying, I'm not licensed or whatever. So that's why um, she's kind of holding herself back.
Yeah, I used to have that fear as well. I was like, I'm the same with when I did my macro nutrition. Like I learned so much even with my coach, but I was like, I think I need a certifications. I think I need
Mm.
that, those letters or whatever. But
Yeah.
uh, I'm kind of on the opposite side now since I've kind of joined this entrepreneurial side. Like letters behind your name or certifications
Mm.
mean that you can sit in the class and listen and write a test to pass. I feel you learn so much more on the job, research, books, YouTube.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
there's so much information out there. Getting the right information though is hard too.
Yeah.
I throughout my own journey, I initially started working with women just to end the yo-yo dieting cycle and improve and functional health. I'm going through perimenopause myself, so it's kind of naturally kind of evolved with helping women thrive through perimenopause and what
Mm.
they can offer because a lot of the help right there in for women's health is really lacking. I don't know. I think it's in North America. I wouldn't say it's just specifically in Canada. I think the same issues are happening in the States as well, just the lack of knowledge. And so, ensuring that you're working with trusted providers. So, and I'm sure your wife has done all the research too. So, because there's just a lot of information to sort through out there.
It's funny that you say that because June of last year, when I went on my day with Pace in Montana, I met someone who talked about something very similar where a lot of the medications and the supplements and all that have been made based on the male body, not understanding that the female body is completely different because you have, different biologies, different cycles and all that. And so interesting that you mentioned that there's nothing really specific for women, right? Or
No,
limited.
no. Yeah, and especially through this transition, like all women go through this. It's
Mm,
inevitable. We're going to go through perimenopause and into menopause.
mm,
But the information and the education even for the medical professions is lacking. It is getting better,
mm,
but it's, I struggled. I went to the doctor and it was in 2023. I went to 6 different specialists and I thought it was perimenopause, like, because I had just taken my menopause certification. So I knew all the signs and the symptoms, yet every doctor I went to, this is a medical doctor, and they
Mhm.
would do tests. They're like, no, everything is normal. You're fine. It's not perimenopause. I'm like, are you sure? Then I'm just going batshit crazy because
Yeah.
like my husband says he's walking around eggshells around me, and this never used to happen, right? So
Yeah.
like I know my body, I know something is going on. So it wasn't until I started working with some functional practitioners that the blood work that we do through saliva testing, like you can't, it's very hard to test your hormones through a blood test. The
Mhm.
gold standard would be through saliva. And so with the saliva test, I'm full blown perimenopause, which I kind of knew already, but going through the medical system, they kept telling me no. And it's just due to the lack of education that they received at the time. So it's not a pointing fingers at them or blaming them.
Mhm.
It's just,
Yeah.
they just don't have the education and support.
That's so crazy that all the tests were quote unquote normal. Because my wife would something do something very similar where she's having like these hives and all these things, and then uh went to the doctor, like a conventional doctor. They said everything's fine, like no issues here. And then she goes and she brings her test results to someone else, like a functional holistic health doctor, and says, "Oh, you have Hashimoto's." So then she
Oh,
goes back to the conventional doctor and says, I think I have Hashimoto's. Can you check really quick? And then they say, oh, wait, you do have Hashimoto's based on the test that we just. And so and the response was, come to us when you have, it's going to get worse. You can't do anything about it. Come to us when things get worse and we'll put you on medication. That was their response. It wasn't like, let's try to fix this before it gets worse.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
100%. And that's why the drive to include functional practitioners on my team was
Mm.
based on my experience with the medical system when they were telling me everything was normal when I knew it wasn't. Like your wife knows her body. She knows that there's
Mm.
something going on, right? You don't
Yeah.
just all of a sudden develop hives when you haven't had them for a long time. So
Yeah.
that's interesting because when I started working with my functional practitioners on my team, I am borderline, sorry, hypothyroidism, which could lead into
Mm.
Hashimoto's as well. So
Yeah. Mm.
too, I have to really protect my thyroid, and you can do a lot through nutrition and lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
Before it's the point that you need to, be on Synthroid or anything. Is she on Synthroid again for it to manage
No,
it?
so what we did was we've completely changed our diet. So when she got diagnosed, we did we bought this juicer and we did
Yeah.
celery juice every single day for over a month. And then we're doing like ginger turmeric shots. We're not eating out as much, if at all, unless we come back here, which is just a different story. But yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
the food that we eat is home cooked. Down in Florida, we live close to a lot of farms, so we'll get our eggs straight from the farm. We get honey straight from the farm. All of our produce and everything comes straight from the farm or farmers market. So everything, and then she's cut out gluten for the most part. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, which is a whole other story because apparently it's not even the gluten, it's the glyphosates that get sprayed onto the gluten. And so
Yes.
if you process it, so her friend, or our friend, I guess, mills her own wheat berries and creates her own flour. And then so that's okay. But not
Yeah,
the stuff
it's
from the
it's
stores.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the way that North America processes their gluten here, right? Like exactly
Yeah.
what you said. But
Yeah.
so here, well, I coach a lot of women through Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism as well. And I can give you even my guide if you want to help your wife, just for extra information.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, one of the recommendations is definitely gluten free. But I've had
Mm.
clients, they'll go travel over to Europe and they can eat bread and it's fine. But it's
Mm.
because it's the way that they process it. It's so different there. So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's crazy. And so she talks about people that are moving to Costa Rica that have like expats that just have like their own society where they grow in their own food and everybody's fine. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason here, it's just I love this country,
Yeah.
but I wish the food was better.
I know, but the thing is that a lot of people aren't even aware of some of this too. And one of my
Mm.
drivers because we lived in the city for 15 years, we just moved out to this acreage two and a half years ago. It was a little bit of a diamond in the rough when we found it. We did a
Mm.
full scale renovation on it, but it's just over 2 acres, so not overly big. But
Mm.
we have like a garden, and we're already thinking of like expanding it. And I want the chicken coop, so we're just, I want to be able to like live off this land too as
Yeah.
much as I can,
Hmm.
as opposed to just relying to everything at the grocery store too. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's funny because we don't have the land for chickens, but at some point I didn't want to get chickens because we go through eggs like crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same here. I don't think with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So, um, I guess when you were going from employee to independent, like what was the biggest mindset hurdle you had to get through?
Oh yeah. So the biggest one was, I had attended a lot of like master classes, like just to learn. Like what I like to do is attend, people that are in my industry, go attend their master classes and learn from them. It's more so of how the systems are set up in behind the scenes. So for me, it was, you know, at the beginning thinking I needed to have a website, I needed this and this because I come from a corporate mindset and I was in
Mm,
IT. So automatically my mind goes to what systems do I need to make my life easier, right? And
yeah.
so some of the mindset shifts were I don't need everything all at once. Like I just need a Google Drive link, a payment link, and a Zoom account,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And so really sitting back in that and also recognizing that I used to compare myself a lot to other coaches in my industry, and I'd be like, oh man, they had like 100 people on their master class, and I only had like 10 sign up.
Yeah.
But I'm comparing to someone who's been in this industry for like years where I'm like a month into it,
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like humbling, like I know I will get there,
Mm,
and just believing. I think the belief that I can do it as well. And just, the testimonies from all my clients, like when they say, like, I think what gives me so much gratitude for what I do is sometimes I don't even realize the impact I have on women.
mm,
And so just by me sharing my stories or whatever, like this woman approached me at the gym the other day and she's like, hey, I just want to come thank you for sending out your daily quote. She's like, I'm a spin instructor and I took a screenshot of it and I tell this to my clients all the time. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, that just makes you feel good, right? So I think
yeah.
the drive to continue going, because sometimes, you're like, am I making an impact? Because
Mm,
you might not, you have my close community, my clients that I'm helping, but for all the other people that are out there that are watching my social media accounts, I want to give it all away. And I'm just
mm,
like, am I making an impact? So when they actually, strangers come up and approach me or people at the gym and they're like, hey, thank you for this. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. Or, somebody's like every morning I start my day with a big glass of water.
mm,
That's the first thing I do. And somebody approached me at an event I was at. She's like, hey, like I had never met her. She's like, hey, you're Char, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. She's like, thank you. I'm like, okay, what? She's like, I start my day with a big glass of water and I look forward to your post every single morning because I know that's what you're going to do. And it's a reminder for her to start her. So these little things that I share, my daily habits that I do on a daily basis, I kind of underestimated the impact that I have overall. So I don't know if I really answered your question because you asked about mindset shifts, but some of another big mindset shift too
mm.
was I thought I had to be on from like 8 to 6, right?
Uh-huh.
I was
Yeah.
so used to being on from 8 to 6. Like during my corporate life, I missed out on a lot of my kids' lives, right?
Mm,
Because
yeah.
my husband worked shift work, so he would primarily work evening shifts so that I could work during the day. So
Mm,
he'd work his evening shift. When he'd come home, I'd go to work. He'd drive the kids to school. He'd pick them up. He'd come them back home, sleep, and pick them up from school. And I'd come home in the evening when he would go. So we barely even saw each other.
mm,
So the biggest mindset shift was allowing myself the permission to like, it's okay if I don't actually log on to my computer until like 10 or 11 or whatever, right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
That was the hardest, I think, for me. The flexibility and getting used to
Mm.
the flexibility of entrepreneurship, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does, because I mean, I resonate with both of the things that you said because for me, believing I grew up before social media and then so when social media comes out, it's like, oh, you're just looking for attention, you're just trying to do this or that. Like you think um yeah, a lot of stigma behind it. But then with you saying that someone looks forward to your post every single day, it just shows that if you are not posting, you're not consistent, like you're letting someone down. So it's your
Yeah.
responsibility to post every single day so that people like that lady are reminded to drink that cup of water in the morning. And then the second point that you made was, what was the second point?
Oh, just giving myself the flexibility and not to be
Yes.
on from like corporate hours, right?
Yeah. So
Like,
that was the biggest shift because I would be rushing to get to my desk, and then I'd get to my desk and like, well, there's nothing really pressing. There are things I have to do, but I don't have to be here to make money. I can have a task, send it out, and then that takes care of itself. And so now I can take a deep breath, relax, go draw with my kids if I want to, take them to whatever class during the middle of the day. I'm still struggling with that a little bit, but yeah, those are huge. They're
yeah.
really, yeah, good.
It's definitely it for me. It was like I almost felt like, and this was just my own, like my husband was judging me, right?
Uh,
Because with his shift work, he's at home a lot too, because they work like 12.7 hour shifts. So like he works 4 days and 4 days off kind of thing. So he's at home a
yeah,
lot. And so,
mm,
I always felt like, oh, is he judging me if I'm not in my office working? Like just
yeah,
because I'm not in my office working, I could be at a coffee shop networking and doing some work, right? Like
mm,
it's a different kind of mindset. But I talked to him about this because I was like, you know
mm,
what, I feel guilty because I think you think this way of me. And he's like, no,
mm.
he's like, why would you think of this? So it's funny how I think for me, having that open relationship and open communication with my husband has really helped kind of
Yeah,
ease into the transition from corporate into entrepreneurship too. So
yeah.
he's a supportive person. So yeah.
Having a supportive partner, I think, is huge, a game
Yeah,
changer. Yeah.
it is. It is. Yeah. It's really huge. Yeah. And he's been there. Yeah. Supporting all the way. Just like my geodome. I'm like, hey, we should do a geodome. Okay, let's do this.
I definitely want to see pictures of that. You have to send me
Yeah.
that posting, and then we'll put it in the description too, so other people can take a look at it too.
Yeah, for sure. It's called Ravine's Edge Geoglamping is what it's called. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll make sure to have that in there too. So I guess knowing what you know now, like, what's some advice that you'd give to yourself when you're just getting started?
Ah, don't be afraid to invest in yourself and get help. I think I was at a point in my entrepreneurial journey. It was 2 years in, and I was feeling almost the signs of burnout again because I was doing everything. I was
Mhm.
doing like it all: your bookkeeping, your social media, your email, your calendar, creating programs, coaching. Like I was doing it all, and so I was towards the end of 2023. I was feeling the signs of burnout again. Like, even though I loved what I was doing, like, it doesn't ever feel like work what I'm doing, but I was just
Mhm.
feeling the signs of burnout. And I didn't feel like I was in a position to hire somebody because I kept telling myself, I don't think I can afford it. Like, I don't know if I'm at that level. And I was fortunate enough to attend a conference out in Jasper. And I was one of the VIP members. As part of being a VIP, you got to meet the keynote speaker, who is Jenna Kutcher. And I am not one to like put myself out and ask questions. Like I've always been the shy kid in the back and don't look at me. I don't want to speak in front of people. But I
Mhm.
said to myself, I'm like, when am I ever going to have the opportunity to meet Jenna Kutcher again and ask a question? So the whole time I'm sitting there, my hands are sweaty and I'm like, I gotta ask. So I just asked the question. I said, Jenna, I feel like I'm at a place in my business where I need to ask for help, but I don't think I can afford it. And she recommended the book Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And then I was like, well, shit, I don't read because I have ADHD. And every time I read, I feel like I got to reread what I read because I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then
Uh-huh.
I ended up downloading the audiobook, got the
Mhm.
audiobook, listened to it on the trip to Mexico, like on the plane ride. And by the time I came back, that was my first thing was to do is to calculate my buyback rate. I can actually afford a VA, and I found the most perfect VA, and she's been with me since November of 2023. So I think getting the help, like, you probably can afford the help. It's just
Mhm.
recognizing what you can afford.
Mhm.
And then also investing in yourself. I felt like, I felt guilty investing in myself, but I look at all of the investments I make in my kids and their sports. Like
Mhm.
my son plays competitive hockey and soccer, and my daughter's in competitive swimming. So there's a lot of money that we invest in their activities and their interests. And I'm like, why do I feel guilty investing in myself? Right?
Right.
It should be no different. So
Right.
as soon as I overcame kind of those fears of investing in myself, I just I went all in. So I put myself in rooms where I want to grow. If somebody's been there before me, I learn a
Mm.
lot from them. So those two things, investing and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this before, and I never really realized it until I went to this event called Jetson Capital. But being in certain rooms really does change who you are just by talking to the people that are also in that same, like just by the connections you make in those rooms.
Yes.
It's just weird
Yep.
how it happens. You just expands your mind.
It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. I love going to different rooms and just meeting people and yeah, I think there's so many people out there that want to help you grow and be successful and it's just finding those people and yeah, it's been the most beautiful experiences this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you, what's a book recommendation that you have?
Yeah, I actually have two and they come from my program. So one is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Uh-huh.
I love that one.
Me too.
I recommend it to all my clients. And then the second one, a lot of us struggle with self-worth. And this is something that I've been working on myself too, because I used to tag my self-worth to a monetary value.
Uh-huh.
And when I went from, you know, working my contract job to entrepreneurship, I'm not making six figures in my first year like I had been in my entrepreneurship. So I never thought like I viewed my success on a dollar number. So the second book is called Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. It's a fabulous book. It's so fabulous in that I've purchased four of them now. And I every time I get a little bit through it, someone will pop in my mind and I'm like, this person will really benefit from this.
Mm.
And I give that book to them. Because in the back of the book, there's actually like a library card where you write your name and you kind of pass it on to somebody else.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, in my journey, if I have a client that's really struggling, or I feel a friend or whoever, acquaintance, maybe a follower on my social media, and I'm like, here, you know what? I want to gift you this, and I'll send them. So now I'm on my fourth book, and I'm going to keep this one for myself and get through it. And I'll just purchase another one for someone else. But so Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima and Atomic Habits by James Clear, the two great books for
Okay.
reading.
Yeah, I love Atomic Habits. It's one of the first books that I read that helped me make working out something that is part of my life now and not just something where I would do it and then stop and then do
Yeah.
it and stop. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and definitely want to look into Worthy as well. I'll put that on my to-do list.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Well,
yeah, so those are the ones for, I guess, you know, that I recommend in terms of my like my community. Other books I've read a lot of business books. Obviously, Buy Back Your Time is a great
mm,
one, and the
yeah,
one I'm on right now is Simple Numbers is another great one.
all right, cool. I'll look into that as well. Well, Charlene, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an amazing conversation and love hearing your story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing. I love and share. Thanks for sharing your story with your wife as well, and I'll definitely send you that Hashimoto's guide too over to you, just for more
Great.
information if she wants it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, take care.
yeah, all right.